Did you know that wars are responsible for a staggering 5.5% of global carbon emissions? Just take a moment to let that sink in. As the world turns its attention to the escalating conflicts in the Middle East or the Russia-Ukraine war, there's a looming threat we're not even talking about. We're focused on the human toll, the political implications, but no one's asking, what's this doing to the planet? Here's something shocking. A recent study revealed that during the first 120 days of fighting in the Israel-Gaza conflict, the carbon emissions produced were greater than the annual emissions of 26 countries combined. Yes, you heard that right. And it gets worse. The destruction of war-torn cities, tunnels, fortifications, the carbon footprint of that alone is equal to burning 31,000 kilotons of coal. To put that into perspective, that's enough to power all of New York City for over a year. But why aren't we talking about this? While we're working so hard to cut emissions from cars, factories, and homes, we're ignoring one of the largest contributors to our planet's environmental crisis, war. And this is no new issue. The devastation wars leave behind doesn't just cost lives. It decimates ecosystems, from deforestation to soil erosion, from water contamination to poisoned wildlife. Armed conflicts leave an irreversible scar on the environment. Did you know that 80% of wars between 1950 and 2000 happened in some of the most wildlife-rich areas on Earth? What happens to those animals when the bombs drop? They don't get a say, they don't get to run. In the Vietnam War, 20 million gallons of Agent Orange defoliated 1.25 million hectares of forest, wiping out entire ecosystems in one fell swoop. That's the equivalent of nearly half of Yellowstone National Park, gone. And it's not just forests that bear the brunt. Soil, the very foundation of life, is literally blown apart. During the Vietnam War, 16 million tons of munitions created over 30 million craters. Let that number sink in. Millions of craters, each a scar on the Earth. World War I was no different. In Verdun, France, the infamous battle saw artillery bombardment so relentless it created over 20 million craters, rendering the land barren and toxic for generations. Even after the fighting stops, the devastation lingers. Hazardous chemicals from explosives seep into the soil. Elements like copper, cadmium, lead, and iron poison the ground, turning fertile fields into wastelands. A large portion of Europe remains tainted by these heavy metals from wars fought over a century ago. And what about water? Dams, wells, reservoirs, all targets during conflicts. In war-scarce regions like Iraq, Syria, and Yemen, water isn't just collateral damage, it's used as a weapon. In Ukraine, warfare has contaminated rivers and lakes, while in Syria and Yemen, water sources have been poisoned and destroyed. When reservoirs are bombed, entire communities lose their lifeline. When water becomes a casualty, everyone suffers. Oil spills, toxic waste, and chemical pollution all follow in the wake of armed conflict. The environmental damage isn't a temporary issue. It lingers, seeps into the earth, flows through our rivers, and poisons future generations. Think about that for a second. We live in a time when climate change is no longer a distant threat. It's here. It's now. And while we're laser-focused on cutting emissions from our daily lives, are we ignoring this important contributor? Wars aren't just killing people, they're killing the planet. So, how long will we turn a blind eye to the environmental cost of war? How long before we hold military powers accountable for their devastating carbon footprints? While we're fighting wars, the Earth is paying the ultimate price. The planet we all share is being destroyed inch by inch, crater by crater, and species by species. We need to ask ourselves, are we ready to confront this truth? Are we ready to stand up and demand that the environmental destruction of war be addressed alongside its human cost? Because climate change isn't a distant future, it's already here. So, let's not just sit on the sidelines, share this message, spread the word, and let's hold those in power accountable, not just for the lives lost, but for the planet we're all losing. The Earth is the one thing we all have in common. Let's fight for it before it's too late. Thanks for watching, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think can be done to mitigate the environmental impact of war? Do share your thoughts, and if you want to learn more about the environmental issues and opportunities, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell.